Hi, this is Gianna London from the Natural Women's Council. We're about to hear from a teacher who's come forward as a whistleblower to expose the level of corruption and colonization happening in the Irish school system. Following this interview, she conscientiously resigned from her post as SPHE teacher and coordinator. Every parent and adult in this country needs to hear what she has to say.
Mary, I know it took a lot for you to come here today, and thank you for coming forward to tell us the truth about what's happening in the education system here in Ireland. Before we start, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
I'm a teacher. I've been teaching for over 30 years. My degree subjects would have been in geography and business. I have been teaching social, personal and health education, and in 2018 I started to coordinate the SPHE program in schools.
And why did you want to do this interview today? What was it that upset you on this DCU course?
I actually went on the DCU training course. It was a course set out to actually train up social, personal and health education teachers so that they'd be able to deliver the new SPHE specification that was being rolled out into schools in September 23. So I actually did this course, and I was just horrified by some of the resources that were being used, the teaching methods that were being used, and I feel that they were totally inappropriate. And if teachers deliver these teaching methods and resources in the manner that DCU were asking us to, there's going to be a lot of very upset children, anxious children, distressed children. And I would even say that many of these resources and teaching methods were in breach of the Children's First Act 2015. And I'm here today to call out Minister Norma Foley and ask her to shut down this programme because it is not fit for purpose. I'm so upset about it, and I feel this is a good platform to get this information out to teachers, to principals, and most importantly to parents, to let them see exactly what is going to be going on in the SPHE classroom.
Okay, and can you tell us about the training that you received in DCU regarding the teaching of this new curriculum? What was so shocking, and what do you feel may have violated the Children First Act?
One of the lecturers showed us a video on masturbation. It was an animated female cartoon figure demonstrating masturbation. In another instance, we saw a sex map where we had heterosexual and homosexual couples engaging in anal sex, vaginal sex, oral sex, and carrying out other sexual activities with partners or on their own. We were shown research papers in the Padlet, one in particular by Kate Dawson. The research paper related to it's okay to watch porn. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to encourage children to become critical thinkers in relation to porn. So we were actually given one exercise whereby we got something like, say, 30 statements, very sexual statements. Statements like, an orgasm can take place under 10 minutes. It's okay to have sex with many partners. Very explicit statements, and we were asked to actually group these statements according to real life or porn life, both or neither. So we had to categorize them into three columns. And look, to me, I just said, if teachers were to mirror this in their classroom, you're asking children, 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds to actually form, first of all, to understand what an orgasm is, and then to form an opinion on it, and to discuss it with the people in their group, and to categorize it then into different columns. And to me, that would cause a lot of harm, upset. It's totally not age appropriate.
So this particular activity relating to porn would be assuming that children watch porn, and you had mentioned that Dr. Kate Dawson had specified that it's okay or there's such a thing as ethical porn?
In her research paper, that shows that, yeah, that it is okay to watch porn. And would you believe, in 2019, Kate Dawson, who's one of the NUIG sex educators, she actually set up porn literacy workshops under the WISER programme, the West of Ireland Sex Education Resource Programme, in conjunction with the HRC. And she went into schools and she actually got a porn alphabet. She co-produced a porn alphabet with students. When parents found out about it, they were horrified, and the whole workshop was actually closed down, and rightly so. So this is actually what they're trying to bring into the schools. They're trying to bring in this porn literacy, where ethical porn, where it's okay to watch porn. And also we were given a critique when we were actually picking a resource in relation to porn, that it should be, say, co-produced, it should be inclusive, it should be rights-based, it should be creative, it should be holistic. So it sounds to me too that actually, those words could actually be, say, the critique for maybe a possible CBA, a classroom-based assessment that teachers actually could do in the classroom. And this is actually on the junior cert specification. The teachers have now the authority to teach about porn because it's on the junior cert specification. It's learning outcome 3.10, the influence of online porn. And I know pornography is an issue with children, but it's not a precautionary approach that is being implemented by DCU. It's an ethical approach. It's an approach where it's saying it's okay to watch porn.
And Mary, that's quite shocking to hear, that someone would think pornography and watching porn is okay for children, given some of the focus we've seen on the news, removing their mobile phones and getting them off social media. So did they explain why they felt that there's such a thing as ethical porn? What was your interpretation of why porn might be okay for children?
Well, look, the porn industry, it's an industry. Okay, there's loads of opportunities in which they can actually stop porn going onto children's phones. I think Ronan Mullins there very recently was actually trying to get a bill through whereby they put some kind of an age application on accessing porn. How many people supported that bill? Like, it can be done. They were doing something over with the French government as well. The French government were trying to do something, and they succeeded in actually stopping porn from going onto children's phones. It's actually an industry. And teachers are actually going to become puppets for that industry. And it's going to give children a very skewed version of sexuality education. This is not sexuality education.
And what did the lecturer explain the rationale to saying that porn is okay for children? Did they explain the why behind the ethical porn?
It was based on the research papers. And like, Kate Dawson is part of this NUIG, the sex educators team, and another person who's part of that NUIG team is actually Siobhan O'Higgins. And Siobhan O'Higgins had a seat on the NCCA curriculum body that devised the new junior cycle. So I call out to her as well to say that this is not appropriate. And it's parents, I think, would be very upset. And you can see now why students are not being allowed to bring in their phones into the classroom, because there will be an issue. Yes. Students will record what's going on.
Yes. And so you talked about the activity or the video on masturbation, and you talked about the porn. Were there any other activities on the DCU course that were very uncomfortable or maybe breached the child safeguarding?
There was loads of activities. I'll just mention one. There was one where we were given all these arts and crafts resources, and we actually had to create the male and female genitals and sexual organs out of, say, Play-Doh and all other little bits of arts and crafts that were on the table, and we did it in group work, and again to mirror this activity in the classroom. And I actually was, I felt so uncomfortable about doing it. It's kinesthetic learning. You learn by doing, you learn by discussing. Somebody in the group would research, so they'd have to know all the parts, they'd have to label it out. But look, the age appropriateness just wasn't there. And even another teacher on the course was actually quite sickened and disgusted about this particular activity. because it took a full, say, 30 minutes to actually get the products, the sexual organs actually made. And it was a thrill, like how big or how small do you make the penis? Like the discussion around that. Is it an erect penis or is it a limp penis? The discussion around that. So yeah, I felt that was just very inappropriate.
And what other topics on the DCU course, in addition to masturbation, porn, and sculpting sexual genitalia, was there any other?
On our last day, we had E.J. Reynolds from Wales come visit us on campus. And E.J. Reynolds, along with Esther McGeaney, were discussing how children could actually convey relationships and sexuality through artwork. And you see, with SPHE, there's going to be an assessment. It's called a classroom-based assessment. And they were just looking at opportunities whereby, looking at ideas as to how people could present the CBA assessments. So we got to see a video of work that was done in Wales. Oh my God, the room just went so quiet. Because what we actually saw was actually just, to me, it was just horrendous.
Tell us what you saw.
It was actually satanic, if I can use that word. There was actually pictures of somebody's artwork whereby there was this scissors image just about to cut the top of a clay penis. And that clay penis was modelled out. There was another instance of where there was a young girl, I'd say no more than 7 or 8, that actually had a mask on her, and she was placing another mask with horns up on the wall. And I just felt this was very subhuman. I think there was actually a wording in part of the video where what the creativity that can come out of an SPHE curriculum or an SPHE class in relation to the art and crafts aspect of it is that it is subhuman, and that just nobody actually commented. We went very quiet.
And you said the room went very quiet. How many teachers were on this course?
There was 34 teachers on it, and we were just stunned. We were absolutely stunned. Now, some of the art teachers, all right, spoke up and they talked about how they could actually use the art and crafts to actually guide children towards their CBAs, their classroom-based assessments. But what we were shown, it was serious stuff.
And did you, Mary, or any of your peer teachers flag any concerns to the lecturer?
I couldn't comment on this. Now, normally I was quite good to flag things and put my hand up and talk about it and raise an issue, but I was actually I was so sickened, and I couldn't respond. I said, I'm not speaking here, because I could feel the coldness in the room. I could even feel the evil in the room. I just wanted to get out of there. And I know I discussed it with another teacher afterwards, and actually 2 other teachers, and we just all felt the same, that it was, whoa, this is way, way out of order. In relation to other stuff, we were taught then how to actually answer explicit questions, like how to manage those type of questions. If students ask us questions now, if they ask us questions like, what is a chest binder? That was one of the questions that they threw out. What is an orgasm? How do 2 men and 2 women have sex? What is anal sex? How does one give head? And the direction from DCU in relation to this was to keep the information brief and frank. And now I have an issue with that, because there was no moral guidance, there was no direction as regards the morality.
And if I can jump in where you said that when you answer the question of a student who might be asking about things like giving head or anal sex, and they responded to be brief, did they give you any examples of how to answer a student? Specifically to that student?
Yes, they actually did it as an activity then on campus another day, where you just give the factual information. You don't give your opinion, you just give them the information. Now, teachers are acting as loco parentis, so we're acting on behalf of the parents. And if a child was to ask their parent, What is a chest binder? That would actually signal alarm bells for a parent that why are they even asking about chest binders? And that to me would be a safeguarding issue. But there was no mention, the whole area about how explicit questions were to be answered, there was no mention of how they should be dealt with properly in relation to managing the questions in such a way that if it is a safeguarding issue, that it actually be reported and you bring in the parent and you discuss it with the parent, saying, look, your child is asking about chest binders. Can you we need to discuss this. Why is this happening? What thoughts have they in their head in relation to that? So there was none of that. It was you just give them the information and that's it. And I just had a big issue with that.
Anything else that you want to say about those activities before we move on?
There was another activity where we actually had to rank words according to a scale as to whether they were sexual or intimate. And they actually introduced words. They gave us words. They gave us about 30, 40 words to rank into 2 columns. They were sexual or they were intimate, or they could be a bit of both. And they actually had words such as rimming. They had words such as fisting, mutual masturbation. And again, the SPHE specification is given the authority to teachers to mirror this exercise in the classroom, because the definition for sexual activity in the SPHE curriculum is that it's the fondling, the kissing, and it's sexual intercourse in all its forms.
So just to back up a minute, so if I understand it correctly, the teacher would give 30 different words to the age 12 to 15 class, such as the rimming and the fisting and the anal sex, and the class, those children would have to rate them sexual or intimate, those 30 different words that you shared with us.
Isn't that just shocking? Isn't that just shocking? Not everybody knows what rimming is. Not everybody knows what fisting is. But this is inclusive education. This is inclusive education where we are now teaching about rimming and fisting, and no mention of the safeguarding implications as a result of that activity. And fisting is placing a fist up the anus of a person, and that's anal fisting, or up the vagina of a person, that's called vaginal fisting.
It sounds like the teachers got quite a lesson on the DCU course.
Well, yeah, I didn't actually know what fisting was, and I didn't know what rimming was. Rimming then is all part of the oral sex, where you're getting the anus ready. It's the licking and the licking and the kissing of the anus.
This is all very graphic and highly sexual material. Was anything about gender identity discussed on the DCU course?
We never had a formal discussion on gender identity. Never. It was assumed that everybody totally agreed and believed in gender identity. There was no room whatsoever for gender critical opinions. Now, 1 or 2 conversations broke out amongst teachers and actually got very heated at times. But this really, really got to me, because they were talking about the importance of actually having debate around healthy food, or the importance about having debate around alcohol and substance use, but they would never have a debate around gender identity. And they were afraid, some of the teachers were saying that they were afraid actually to have a debate around healthy food and healthy eating, because you could upset children who might have anorexia. And one teacher did comment, all right, about, well, should we not be discussing gender dysphoria? And but it was just completely affirmation all the time. And in the NCCA guidelines given by the Department of Education, in the classroom, say, bringing it back to the classroom, if a child does show any discomfort in their gender, that a teacher actually has to affirm it. That we allow children to form their identities in environments of affirmation.
And did pronouns or anything like that come up on the course?
I know on the EDA course, on the EDA in-service course that I attended last May, the 2-day in-service, we were asked actually to introduce ourselves to our students using our personal pronouns, and I totally objected to that.
And stop right there for a second. You objected to that, and what was the lecturer's response or the EJA?
I said to her, can you actually give me an example of actually how we introduce ourselves to using our pronouns? So she gave me the example. She said her name, and then she said she, her. I said, that is actually crazy stuff. I said, you cannot expect teachers to actually believe. I said, this is an ideology. I said, a lot of people don't believe in this. And the importance of being inclusive was stressed then, that to be inclusive, to have an inclusive classroom, that you actually, you need to introduce yourself using your personal pronouns.
So where is this coming from and why?
Well, on the DCU course, we got a huge amount of information on a man called Paulo Freire, a Marxist. And Dr. Jones Irwin was discussing his philosophies of education, whereby he stated that politics and education go hand in hand. And we, for a case study, we actually had to look at our own schools and look at where these Paulo Freire's, this Marxist policies could actually be applied in our schools. We also had another lecture in DCU from a Vivek de Silva, who actually showed us a timeline of events of how society in Ireland has changed, say back from 1984, when poor Anne Lovett passed away in the graveyard when she was giving birth to a child, and that was the start of, say, social, personal health education coming into schools. And then it goes through a timeline of events, such as, for example, in the divorce that came into Ireland in 1996, the Gender Recognition Act that came in 2015, same-sex marriage, the appeal of the 8th. So all of these this timeline of events that occurred in Ireland, that relationships and sexuality education then had to change to match that timeline. So we're going from a traditional moralist type of view to a very much a secular liberal view on sexuality education.
So a very liberal view, but that's also based on Paulo Freire, a known Marxist who believes that politics and education go hand in hand. So some of what you learned was based on a political agenda being put into the classroom, perhaps? I would think so. Because it's through education, no matter what, if you have a political agenda, it's through education. You indoctrinate the generation, you indoctrinate them, and it's through that you succeed. And that's why we were told by lecturer Vivek de Silva at DCU that this information cannot be contained in the SPHE class. It has to be cross-curricular. So we have these events, these stand-up awareness weeks, these inclusivity weeks. They're all just a means of actually bringing this information, this indoctrination out into the wider school. So Mary, if it's cross-curricular, will it be much more difficult for parents under the Article 42 in the Constitution or Education Act of 98 to exercise our right to opt our children out?
Oh, absolutely, because the one thing, and I actually didn't say this, Jana, is that with the new specification, relationships and sexuality education is now, it's an integrated approach. It's not a standalone unit like it was before. And we were told by EDA, we were directed by DCU, that it's an integrated approach. You teach relationships and sexuality. It's integrated throughout the curriculum. It's a spiral effect. So you give a little bit maybe at the start of the year, give more information maybe at the middle of the year, towards the end of the year. It's a spiral effect. So if parents, and I'm saying this directly to parents, if parents want to opt their child out, it's now more difficult to opt them out of a standalone unit which may only last for 6-7 weeks on the old curriculum. The new curriculum, they will have to opt them out fully from this subject, because you don't know when the teacher is going to start teaching some of the very controversial learning outcomes.
And some of these controversial learning outcomes that you talked about today, which are extremely controversial, parents may not have visibility because the books are being purchased by the school and may stay at school. And there's also, we've heard talks of the secrecy pact. Can you talk about those?
Parents need to join up the dots. They really need to join up the dots. And I'm calling out parents here. You need to take ownership back of your children. You need to see what is actually going on in schools. The fact that the fact that the Department of Education is now buying the textbooks don't go home. Parents can't see them. The fact now that children have to keep their mobile phones out of the classroom. They can't record anything. The fact now that children, and this was instructed under EDA as well as DCU, that you create a safe and inclusive environment for children to ask their questions, to ask their explicit questions, but you insist that you insist in your co-produced ground rules that what is shared in the class stays in the class.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I understand you're upset, and I think how you feel is how a lot of parents and teachers around the country are feeling right now with this. So that's why I was so delighted that you came forward to do this interview. A recent memo came out to the public from the ASTI.
Yes, that's right.
And that had a similar message.
The ASTI actually recognised the fact that there are very sensitive topics on this new specification. They recognise that, and they have actually asked teachers, they've actually informed teachers that if they're not comfortable teaching it, that they're not to teach it. And thank God they actually came out with that. But it's so teachers, this RSE, this type of sexuality education can only be delivered in schools if teachers teach it. And I'm actually calling on teachers, SPHE teachers, who are kind of sitting on the fence, don't know what to do because there's a huge amount of confusion. Because like SPHE, before the NCCA got to this new specification, SPHE was actually a lovely course because there's loads of parts in the curriculum that's very important and very relevant for child safety, really important stuff like the internet safety and loads of different areas. And it's a lovely course because there's bits in relation to goal setting, planning, settling into secondary school. There's loads of bits there that are very important. But this new aspect that's in it, these very controversial learning outcomes, they can only be taught if teachers teach it. And I'm appealing to teachers not to teach it.
If teachers don't teach it, will they bring someone else into the school to do the teaching of this?
And that was also in the memo, which is very disappointing. They'll bring in the NGOs. They'll bring in people like Trans Equality Network Ireland and other organisations belong to who would be very happy to indoctrinate the kids with this woeful sex education. I wouldn't even call it sex education. It's just very warped education, and it's actually going to ruin a generation of children, and we need to stop it.
Mary, thanks for coming forward today to do this interview. I think the information that you relayed is shocking for parents to hear, for teachers, principals, and it does have to stop. And it took a lot to come here today, and we're so grateful that you shared with us this information.
Thank you, Jenna.
Now that we've heard the information Mary had to say, we have two choices. We can stay silent or we can take action. If you decide to take action and make our schools a place where children can be educated, not indoctrinated, please visit naturalwomenscouncil.ie under the campaign tab. Together, we will protect children.